Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook. Today I'm joined by Justin Wells. We got a great episode today filled with recruiting intel, a little recruiting discussion version of recruiting intel. Justin and I are going to go over 5 important 2025 recruits that you need to know about. We're in agreement on pretty much all of them, but we differ at the very end. But overall, all these recruits that we're going to talk about have a heavy interest in Texas. Texas is keen on signing them here in January, and they're worth tracking as we go from junior day visits to spring visits to official visits and kitchen table time in the summer, maybe even further than that as it gets going along. So, Justin, you ready to hop right into it?
Let's rock and roll, Joe.
Well, I think we got to start with what Texas already has, and you can't really go too far with names to know without knowing the names you should already know. I guess to say KJ Lacey, quarterbacks in the boat. Lance Jackson, big pickup from the other day. Profiles to edge. Emory Winston, tight end from Georgia. Brandon Brown, a defensive lineman from Melbourne, Florida, and then Anthony Deuce Williams from Shadow Creek. So those are ones you need to know. If you're watching this, you probably do already know those guys. At this point, Texas has the number 8 recruiting class in the country, very, very early in the On3 industry ranking. But these are the guys that we think that Texas really needs to make sure that they add in order to keep the roster operating at a high level. And I think it'd be, 4 straight top 5 classes. And Justin, you and I agree. Number 1, it's 5-star wide receiver Dakorien Moore from Duncanville, Texas. Texas was very involved in his recruitment before he committed. And basically when LSU lost out on Colin Simmons, they made a real quick push for Dakorien Moore. And it wasn't just that quick push that got him in the Bayou Bengal bucket, but also, you look at the year that Malik Neighbors had, and they had another wide receiver whose name escapes me, who's also going to be drafted really early. It makes sense that at least at that point, but Justin, Dakorien Moore is going to be someone that Texas continues over and over to get on campus to pursue, and seems like they're one of the few schools still involved in the entire process for Moore.
Yeah, it's a weird recruitment in many different ways, and I'm glad we're starting with him. I believe since Chris Jackson took the job in Austin, he's had one guy that he just really loves, and that's Dakorien Moore. And Moore has been on campus a ton of times. His family's been on campus a lot. His mom really likes Austin, really likes Texas. But yeah, you're right. Once Colin Simmons jumped into the Texas boat, LSU did the tush push within 12 hours, and DK Moore was in the mix. He was committed. And so, and he's joining, guys like Bryce Underwood and Harlem Berry in a really, really nice LSU class. That being said, I don't know if that sticks. It's early. It's very early. You would think being committed, he would still have 20, 30 suitors. College is breaking down the door. Hey, we still want to recruit you. We still like you. You're a 10-5, 10-6 kid. You've won back-to-back state championships. You've been a focal point of an offense that doesn't throw the ball. And plus you're the punter at Duncanville, and he's a pretty dang good punter. Not Joe Cook level punting, but he is a specialist. What's funny is that Texas and Oregon are really the only 2 other teams that are still pushing. I know SMU calls him. I know there's a handful that reach out, but he told me personally, look, it's Texas and Oregon. Those are the 2 schools that call me every day or text me every day or reach out every day. He was almost coming to junior day. He was actually on the roster for a few weeks. And then he did the math, and he decided that it was his birthday on Saturday for junior day. So he wanted to spend time with his family and friends. And that makes a lot of sense, especially considering he's been to Texas so many times. But Moore, that's what's weird. He's a 5-star, and he's literally got probably 3 or 4 schools that recruit him. Now he's got 30, 35 offers. But like I said, he's told me, he's like, it's, I think most schools thought, well, he's done. Well, he's wrapped up. He's just going to go to LSU. Well, Sark doesn't believe that at all. That staff in Texas has some confidence that they can reel him in. And it starts with the way they use the wide receiver. And it starts, and then it ends with all the Duncanville guys recruiting him. Like these DFW kids, I know I say this a lot, but these DFW kids really recruit each other, like at a high level. And I think I asked him one time, I said, okay, you got two teammates, Colin Simmons and Alex January. They're in Austin. How do they recruit you? And he said, well, Alex doesn't say anything, which makes perfect sense because Alex doesn't talk very much. He's a man of little words. He's a young monster. Colin Simmons blows up his phone every day because Colin Simmons is a leader. He's an alpha male. And Colin has basically said, look, I know you're committed to LSU, but you're going to sign at Texas. So just get used to it.
Yeah. And when it comes to prospects of a certain level, I think you can look at someone like Arch Manning, in not to exactly in that category, but they share a similar ranking. Someone like Arch Manning, going back, Kelvin Banks, DJ Campbell, CJ Baxter. These are the type of prospects that Steve Sarkisian and whatever assistant, they don't back off of. They recruit all the way to the end of the cycle until the ink is dry, until the JPEG is sent in. They stay on these guys. And in other cases, there's been a commitment to overcome with Kelvin Banks for sure. And I don't know if Texas, I can't remember if Texas was really like in the picture for CJ Baxter when he was committed to Florida State, but there was a commitment there. Yeah, but still, and so far,
Rashard Choice joined Texas.
And so far, Texas track record in these types of recruitments has been fantastic. But this one's a little different because, the Brian Kelly situation is stable. They've made a lot of different offensive hires, as recently as January 23rd, replacing a lot of that staff that moved on or found different places they wanted to go. But this is different a little bit because it's an LSU program that, in the past 2 years has had a really good record, has had a Heisman winner, and is always going to recruit well. So this is going to be one of the biggest tests of Steve Sarkisian's, ability to recruit all the way to the finish and, stay with a prospect who he sees as a necessity for his roster. The next guy we have an agreement on, we go from the skill position into the trenches. 5-star offensive lineman Michael Fasusi, probably an offensive tackle. He's at Louisville High School. Everybody, all the 4 major services have him as a top 40. There are 2 that have him as top 11. On3 itself has him as the number 36 offensive lineman. And, Texas has had a lot of success in these recent cycles. In 2022, they stock up with, the left tackle in Kelvin Banks. 2023, get a lot of guys with maybe a little bit longer development curve, but hey, there's a left tackle in there in Trevor Gooseby. This most recent 2024 class, 5-star Brandon Baker, who probably starts his career at right tackle, but ends up competing for left tackle. And then in 2025, if you're looking for like you always say, the franchise left tackle, it seems like it'd be someone like Fasusi.
Joe, I checked this before we did the show just to make sure, because I don't want to. I want to be just like Sark. I want to be transparent. I don't want to lie to anybody. I want them to know the truth. I own one maroon shirt. One. Okay. It's Michael Fasusi Day. Okay. Let me tell you something.
Farmers.
That kid is beautiful. And he is a better guy off the field than he is on the field. I got to know Michael literally over the last 2 years. I've got some buddies over there on the Louisville staff. And as a freshman, when Kyle Flood came in, before he even did anything, he looked at the offensive coordinator, said, that's what an NFL offensive tackle looks like immediately. And he's starting to fill out. We saw the production last year that he was key into Louisville. They made a nice long state run in the playoffs last year. And I think Fasusi was the anchor to that offensive line and be able to protect Ethan Terrell, their quarterback. With Fasusi, he's just like DK Moore in the sense that he's got 30-something offers. He can pick any school in the country he wants to go to. I think he's going to use this spring to really go see a lot of those places. People asked him, are you going to go see Texas and Oklahoma? And he told me, I've seen those a bunch. He goes, I'm going to try out some other places just to see for sure. And I mentioned Texas and Oklahoma because those are his top 2 schools right now. If National Signing Day was tomorrow, it's going to come down to Texas and Oklahoma. He absolutely loves Coach Biedenbaugh at Oklahoma. He likes what Coach Venables is building there. He's got a really good relationship with the staff. And at the same time, he's also got a former teammate in Jaden Hardy that's up there as well. Then you flip it over to Texas, and I think Texas is connected with him and his family better than anybody. His family's strict. And you know, those families are very strict. It's about homework. It's about get off your phone. It's about studying and focus and being driven. And that's what Fasusi brings. He is such a good kid. I think he's a future left tackle. I think I could see him starting out at right tackle and then shifting over there. But when I went to see him a couple of weeks ago, he's 6'5", 300 pounds, Joe. Like, he is beautiful. Great wingspan, great feet, great hands. And he's starting to realize his value. He's starting to figure out, he's like, okay, I think I've got this down, but he's still lowered in the ears. He's still humble. And so he is the priority on this offensive line for 2025. Texas got in on him early. They offered him early, but don't be surprised to see him take a number of visits. I believe he was at Missouri a couple weeks ago. He was at Texas A&M 2 weekends ago. He told me he's looking at maybe a spring trip to Austin. He'll probably hit Norman again in the spring as well. He wants to take his official visits this summer. I anticipate a decision before the beginning of his senior year. I could see a decision right after his official visits because right now, Michael still enjoys the recruiting process. And I looked at him and I said, give that 6 more months. And because now he's really getting pushed and pressured by some of the elites in the country. And so right now, Texas is in a great spot with Fasusi, but it's a Red River shootout battle for his services today.
Next recruit we got to talk about is 4-star running back Jordon Davison. This is the first non-Texan on our list, heading all the way out to California. Modern day product. We know that Sarkisian has a lot of connections there, a lot of influence there. Chris Jackson, even though he's not that position coach, has a lot of influence there as a graduate. And, of course, Tashard Choice. Seems like he has influence pretty much anywhere. Davison was at the Longhorns Junior Day. He is one of the I don't have his ranking pulled up right now. Oh, yeah, there it is.
He's number 3 or number 4.
Number 42 overall in the On3 industry ranking. So just kind of the one of the highest ranked.
What running back is he?
Running back wise, he is the number 3 running back.
Great.
So 5'11", 210 pounds. And this is one that Tashard Choice has been working on for a long time. And Texas likes keeping that running back room stocked with a lot of talent. They even have somebody from the class behind him committed in from Alito and Racine Guillory. But this seems like the number 1 choice for Tashard Choice in the 2025 class.
Boy, you're a wordplay machine, Joe. You're the man. You know who else is the man? Jordon Davison. You know, this guy is, and I think Tashard Choice has a type. You know, we're guys. We always have a type. I think Choice has a type. And it's a guy that's about 5'11", 6 foot, goes between the tackles, a little over 200 pounds. He likes the speed. He likes all those intangibles, but he really likes the natural runners, the cutback guys, your C.J. Baxters, your Jarrett Gibson types, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Brooks. Like he knows what he's doing. And so, with Davison, I think it's Texas and everybody else. Like I think it's Texas in the field. I put in an RPM for Davison last March or April. Just because of a number of sources indicating that Texas was the leader and that probably wasn't going to change. He was on campus again. Modern Day left late. They were like the last group out of the building on Saturday night, and he caught up with me when I was headed home. And again, he's like, I came. I kind of knew what to expect. I've been here a bunch of times. This staff really loves me, and he goes, they made sure I'm a priority, and he goes, that's exactly how I want to feel. And not to mention, he's watched Tashard Choice improve guys like Bijan Robinson and Rashawn Johnson and Jonathan Brooks. If you ever listen to the Third and Long podcast that a number of the former Longhorns are on, they had Jonathan Brooks on there, I believe, yesterday. And Brooks just broke down Choice to a T. Like he's like, this guy's amazing. So we see why he's so successful. Again, this is Texas versus the field. I actually caught up with Jordon yesterday because you and I had heard a little scuttle about some stuff that we had to go dig into. And Davison said, I'm getting closer to a decision, but not yet. Closer, but not yet. I think his decision will happen probably by the spring, if not sooner. I think it's Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, USC. Those are the 3 schools that are coming at him the most. And right now, I'm not going to bet against Tashard Choice because he's at a point in his career at Texas where he gets who he wants. It is phenomenal how good he is at recruiting guys. He didn't knock out 10 or 20 offers and just pick out of the bunch. He's got like 3 or 4, and he's going to get number 1 and number 2 on his board. Davison, to me, is number 1 on the board, and I think he'll be a Longhorn sooner rather than later.
Tashard Choice is one of the most confident recruiters I think we've ever been able to cover. And yeah, he has that same mentality like Steve Sarkisian does. If he sees somebody that he wants and needs on the roster, he doesn't let up on them. Real quick, before we get on to the next recruit, got to get in a word from our friend Andre the Lawyer. Andre the Lawyer is a longtime Inside Texas user. They never take more than their clients. No win, no pay, and no upfront costs. His principal office is in Dallas, Texas, and he's been representing injured Longhorns throughout the state of Texas. Every client gets a personalized text message number so they can contact the team and get direct access to their lawyer all day and all night. Call Andre the Lawyer at 214-444-8808. Whether you're in a car wreck, an 18-wheeler accident, a slip and fall, on-the-job injury, or wrongful death, call 214-444-8808, 214-444-8808. Justin, we got to go to the last guy that we kind of agree on for this list, and that is four-star linebacker Riley Pettijohn. He's another guy who's on the fringe of being in the five-star category. Goes to McKinney High School, where Texas just signed another guy who's just outside the five-star ranking, I think, in the most recent rankings, but I think those haven't been finalized yet. In Xavier Filsamy, but Riley Pettijohn, McKinney High School, and is just a linebacker who you don't find a whole lot these days. You know, we've seen linebackers where you would put your best athlete in the middle of the field and track guys between the tackles. Now your best athlete plays defensive end, and is someone like Colin Simmons who's rushing the passer. But over at McKinney, Pettijohn is someone who reads the middle of the defense really well and could go a long way towards, even with a lot of bodies in that linebacker room, helping down the line whenever Anthony Hill finally graduates or departs early for the NFL, or when David Benda's gone and Maurice Blackwell. Like, there's going to be some opportunity for guys in the next few years. Texas kind of hopes that 2023 class is able to help out, but at the same time, those guys aren't proven, and Pettijohn might see something in Texas, among other places, that has him interested. And remind me, was he on campus for the junior day? He was. I know we got a picture of him from Will Gallagher.
Yeah, he was, and our main man at Inside Texas, Easy E Nalene, got to talk to him a little bit before he took off. With Riley, this is a guy, I always talk about with linebackers, in this spread era, you need guys that can cover. Like, old style linebackers are hard to find that plug gaps, don't get caught up in the wash. This kid tracks and smacks. Like, to me, he's a little bit longer than Ty Anthony Smith. Now, he's not as sudden. He doesn't have that suddenness or twitch that Ty Anthony does, but Pettijohn is a legit 6'3", 200 pounds, Joe. Like, he is a fringe, like you said, fringe 4 or 5 star. This is a guy that could see a ratings boost. He was on campus. I think Texas looks great there, but I don't think this recruitment is anywhere near close. Georgia came through yesterday and offered him. And I think they're very serious about it. And if I need to remind you, when Glenn Schumann comes in to Texas to offer linebackers, Georgia usually gets them. And so this one's going to be a battle. Like I said, it's hard to find a linebacker that can be the traditional inside guy, but then also bend the edge, but also cover in space. And I think that's what Pettijohn offers. And so this one's, I think, going to be a recruitment that plays out. Michigan is in the mix. LSU is in the mix. Texas A&M is in the mix. Number of other schools that really like him. But at the end of the day, I think Texas just has to kind of continue to build that relationship. Because remember, Texas was pretty early with his offer, and had been building with Jeff Choate, and so he got to meet Johnny Nansen. I thought that might be the most important guy that was on one of the most important guys that came on campus Saturday, because he had to meet the new linebacker coach, who we've got nothing but rave reviews from. And so right now, I think Pettijohn's recruitment is going to probably go the distance, at least at this stage. I could see him coming back for an official in the summertime, but I think this is going to be a recruitment where there's going to be a lot of schools that stand out. And I don't think Pettijohn's anywhere close to a decision. I think he's going to let it play out, especially when schools like Georgia come to his high school, see him work out, and offer him on the spot.
We've talked about 4 guys now, and 1, 2, 3 of those 4 are DFW guys. Do you remember if we had done this video 3 years ago, 4 years ago? We're not putting that many DFW guys on here, but now we have all these different guys from the Metroplex who Texas has been in on, and not just from the Metroplex, from some of the most talented areas in the Metroplex. But we do differ a little bit on who our fifth choice is. And I'll go first. My next one is 4-star defensive back Jaboree Antoine. He's from New Iberia High School. He's from Westgate High School in New Iberia, Louisiana. So that's the same high school as Derek Williams, and he is ranked as the number 45 prospect, the number 7 cornerback, and the number 2 prospect in Louisiana. Basically, all the services think he's a top 3 prospect in Louisiana. And I think this is a recruitment that Texas has a really great chance in. Of course, they have his teammate, but just kind of thinking in the past few cycles, Texas has grabbed, top players from Louisiana out of LSU's backyard. They've gotten Arch Manning, obviously. They got Derek Williams.
Wardell Mack.
Wardell Mack, who's from the New Orleans area, as I believe as well. Like, those are great players coming from Louisiana to Texas. And I think we heard Steve Sarkisian say either right after signing day or in the lead up to the Sugar Bowl that, sometimes they don't know where East Texas ends and Louisiana begins. They joke about that in their staff room. And this would be a great addition because no matter what, you always need cover corners. I know the SEC has this reputation for just being bully ball. And of course, they have some of the best trench players in the country in that conference, but they also have some of the best wide receivers in the country in that conference. And they also have some more and more now great schemers, great offensive play callers who are doing great things and helping guys like, Jaden Daniels win the Heisman and helping, even being able to, I don't want to say this demeaningly, but like people thought a lot about Jalen Milroe's, limitations, but you have good coaches who can find like, what? That's a 6'3", 220-pound guy running and who's got a cannon for an arm. We can design an offense around that. Like, basically, that's all to say that Sark's going to be one of the top play callers, if not the top play caller in that conference, I'd argue. But when you look at Tennessee, when you look at Kentucky, when you look at, hey, Hugh Freeze is calling plays, there are some great offensive schemers putting great wide receivers in position. You need good corners to shut down great corners even to shut down those. And if you could even do that at the expense of maybe your rival who expects a prospect from New Iberia to end up in their class, Terry Joseph and Pete Kwiatkowski would like nothing more than to make that happen.
Yeah, listen, Antoine is a good case study of if you recruit well in an area, you keep going after the young pups. Like, Terry Joseph, he needs a tip of the cap. He's done a tremendous job recruiting in to boot. Like you mentioned, Manning, Derek Williams, and Wardell Mack. With Derek Williams, that to me is a big data point. Listen, Jaboree, it basically, worshipped Derek Williams. He's a couple years younger, and everywhere Derek went, Jaboree would follow him. If he'd go to a workout, Jaboree would go work with him. If they go run routes, he'd go work with him. And so he actually got to hang out with Derek on Saturday night at the end of the junior day. And so, and I think that to me is the biggest data point of all when it comes to Texas. Now, that being said, LSU hiring Corey Raymond is going to make a difference. It's just, let's not get it twisted. That's the facts. Something else about Antoine that I was a little surprised at, he hit a growth spurt in the last 6 months. I remember because he's been on campus probably 4 or 5 times, maybe 6 times. He's made a long drive a ton of times. He's up to 6'1", 180 now. And I've got an old picture of him working out when I believe he was a freshman with Derek Williams, and he may have been 5'10", 150, 160. So you're seeing a young monster starting to grow. And I like that you picked him because I also love Kobe Sellers, the Alvin Shadow Creek corner who Texas is in a great spot for. Hosted him this weekend or last weekend for Junior Day as well. And so Antoine's going to be one that I think it's going to come down to Texas and LSU at this stage. It'll progress a little bit more. I don't think Jaboree's ready for a decision, but I think Texas was the leader before Corey Raymond was hired. And how much of a difference that makes, I think, is going to dictate where this recruitment goes.
But, Justin, you disagreed with me on who your number 5 for the top 5 most important recruits you need to know are. Yeah. And you're going with someone a little bit closer to your neck of the woods in Lufkin defensive lineman Zion Williams.
Yeah, I hate to sound partial, but this guy is incredible. You're talking about 6'5", 310 pounds. He reminds me of Fasusi. He's growing into his body. He's that ball of clay that you can mold. And he has the best personality. Like, he is friends. He has not met a stranger. He is a great kid. And I know, being in the SEC, you have to stockpile defensive tackles, defensive linemen. You can't have too many. It's just the truth. Over-recruit that spot every cycle when you're in the SEC, because if you can't stop the run in that conference, you're going to lose. You're going to get bullied. Zion Williams is the anti-bully. He's the guy you hire to come take care of your kid. What was that movie? That drill bit movie with Owen Wilson.
Drill bit Taylor.
Yeah, that's Zion. He's gonna come in and make sure nobody hurts you. Nobody gets in the mix. D-line is so important in this cycle. And remember, 2 years ago, they only signed one, Sadir Mitchell. Last year, they signed 3, and 1 didn't make it to campus, DeAndre Robinson. So you're going to have to go probably 4, at least 3, possibly 4 in the 2025 class. Zion might be the best in that group. He's certainly in that conversation. Dylan Battle out of Mansfield Timberview is also in the mix. But listen, Zion is special. You just don't find 6'5", 310-pound kids that can move like he can. I saw him play against Tyler Legacy last year down in Lufkin and at John Outlaw Stadium, and he was unblockable. Like, I talked to the head coach at Legacy after the game, Bo Trahan, former Texas Longhorn great special teamer, and he said we have no answer for that. Like, you're just going to get pushed. You talk about the ultimate inside guy that can collapse the pocket. And again, he is a great kid. You're going to get a great kid in your program. That's the type of kid. And Lufkin has those guys. It's like the Jaron Thompsons, the guys that come in and they're out of the mud and they just want to work. They got a chip on their shoulder and they just want to get after it. That's just how they are. And that's why Zion's my number 5. Listen, I'm with you. I think Antoine is probably the most important at corner with him and Kobe Sellers. But I'm a D-line guy in the SEC now. That's what I'm going to focus on. And at the end of the day, you have to stockpile. And you got a kid 2 hours from campus. Not in your backyard, but 2-hour drive from Austin. And you better get with it, because Texas laid a great foundation over the last 6 months. They offered, I want to say, last spring, and they've got a great foundation in that recruitment. But Bo Davis was the primary, and Bo Davis is now back in Baton Rouge coaching for LSU. And Zion was actually expected in this weekend, and then he called me late Thursday night, and said, I'm actually going to LSU this weekend. And so this is one where Texas better get stuff together. You cannot let that kid leave the state. You cannot let that kid go somewhere other than Texas. He is that important. You could make an argument he could be number 2 or 3 on this board, because you don't just need big guys. You need big guys with motors, big guys with drive, and big guys that are good people and great locker room people. And that's Zion Williams.
And we've seen that Texas, at least in its current defense, knows how to deploy these pretty tall defensive tackles. So
yeah,
definitely a spot and roll. Maybe an Outland is in his future like it was for Tavondre Sweat. But Justin, great discussion as always. Thank you for watching this episode on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. We've got it coming from all angles, whether it's breaking news, in-depth analysis, live streams, or anything else. This is the place to be. Justin, thank you so much. We will see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.